Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the mel0n Review. Today we're checking out yet another new set of skates from X-Raypad, the new Jade Air Dots and Donut skates. As you've probably noticed as of my recent videos, I've been pretty X-Raypad pills when it comes to skates, as I've loved pretty much every single one of their recent releases, and this continues today with the brand new Jade Air skates. These skates are pretty much the same concept as what we saw with the Obsidian Air and Air Pro skates, just with a speed optimized skate that's been upgraded with the Air Foam layering, which makes the already quiet Jade skates even quieter on hard pads. But this added layer of foam has another unique purpose, as it actually fixes one of the biggest issues with the older Jade skates, but we're going to talk about this more in detail later on in this video. Now before we get into the video, a big thank you to X-Raypad for sending over the Jade Air Dots and Donuts for review. As always, this video will be fully subtitled and timestamps available down in the video description. And if you enjoy the review of the Jade Air Dots and Donuts, be sure to leave a like on this video and be sure to get subscribed as well. I will also have a full review of X-Raypad's new Meteorite glass skates coming out very soon, so be sure to get subscribed so you don't miss that video. Alright, well with all that intro stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into today's episode of the mel0n Review. Now in terms of pricing and unboxing, the Jade Air Donuts and Dots retail on X-Raypad's website for $9.90 USD. As per usual with X-Raypad products, if you purchase them from X-Raypad's website, they will be cheaper than buying them from a third-party retailer, as there you'll be paying the full retail price of $11.99 USD. Just like we saw in the Obsidian Air and Air Pro Dots and Donuts, the packaging for the Jade Airs has been updated. I really like the look of this new Jade's packaging, and it's a big improvement over the old Jade packaging. The unboxing for the Jade Air skates is the same as what we saw with the past Obsidian Air and Air Pro skates. Both Jade Air versions include 2 adhesive removal wipes and 2 alcohol wipes. For the Jade Air Dots, there are 2 sheets of skates, and each sheet holds 20 skates for a total of 40 dot skates. For the Jade Air Donuts, we have 2 sheets of skates, but there are only 16 skates per sheet for a total of 32 donuts. Both the Jade Air versions still have a protective film installed over the skates out of the box, which is a great attention to detail we've seen on all the previous X-Raypad skates. In terms of skate dimensions, starting off with the Jade Air Dots, the width is unchanged from the original Jade Dots, having the same diameter of 6.5 millimeters, but just like we saw with the other Air versions of X-Raypad skates, the Air versions are slightly taller due to the added layer of SMPF, so the Air versions are going to be measuring around 0.13 millimeters taller than their non-Air counterparts, so the Jade Air Dots are going to be measuring in at around 0.93 millimeters tall. For the Jade Air Donuts, the width is the same as their non-Air counterparts, measuring in at around 9.5 millimeters wide. The height, just like the Air Dots, is going to be around 0.13 millimeters taller than the non-Air Donuts, so the Air Donuts are going to be measuring in at around 0.93 millimeters tall. Now, just like we saw with the other X-Raypad Air skates, this SMPF layer can be squished down with some force, which can cause the Air Dots to shrink a little bit, going from around 0.93 millimeters tall to around 0.82 millimeters tall. Now, the degree that the Jade Air Dots and Donuts will squish down will vary depending on the pad you're using them on, as well as your grip weight, but I really wouldn't be concerned about the squishiness of the skates, as this isn't going to significantly impact the performance of the skates on soft or hard pads. Now before we move on, I did want to note a couple things about the Jade Air Donuts. Since they have the same dimensions as the other donut skates, keep in mind that due to their 9.5 millimeter width, the Jade Air Donuts will have the same compatibility issues as the past donuts, where the donuts are just slightly too large to fit in some mice's skate cutouts. Mice like the Death Adder V3, Pulsar X2, V2, and X2H, to name a few mice, are all versions where the donut skates don't fit properly in the skate cutouts. So if you're considering getting the Jade Air Donuts or any of the other donut skates from X-Raypad, be sure to measure your mouse's skate cutouts to make sure they're at least 9.5 millimeters wide or larger, so the donuts will fit properly. Another shortfall of the donut skates is that the removable central dot is still largely useless, as it still has these sharp 90-degree edges, so you can't use them on fabric pads as mini dots or stabilizers, as these sharp edges will get caught on the soft fabric. Now I do like that you can remove the central dot, as you can put the hollow donut over an access port like I've done here on my Centauri S10, but on most mice you don't need to do this, so I would just leave the central dot installed. I wouldn't recommend using it as a mini dot or a stabilizer. The 9.5 millimeter width has, in my opinion, been the biggest downside of the donut skate since the original Obsidian and Jade Donuts were released. I hope we'll see a slightly smaller donut skate that's around 8.5 millimeters wide with that rounded central dot in the future, so the donuts will be more universal in their mouse compatibility and have mini dots included, but we'll have to wait and see if X-Raypad is going to be making some donut skates V2 in the future with these improvements. Alright, let's talk about the Jade Air skate material makeup and more about this SMPF layering next. Both the Jade Air Dots and Donuts material makeup is still exactly the same as what we found in the original Jade skates, being made of 100% PTFE. The only difference between the Air and non-Air versions is the added SMPF layering, and that the Jade Airs have been dyed green instead of the white we saw in the non-Air Jade. Jades. I always wondered why X-Raypad never made the original version of the Jades green, but I'm glad it finally happened here on the Air versions, as it's more accurate to the naming of the skates. Now, as I just mentioned, the Jade Airs have the same added layer of Soft Microporous Polyurethane Foam, or SMPF for short, that we've seen added to the other X-Raypad Air skates. This layer of foam acts as a buffering layer between the skate and the mouse's frame, which helps to reduce the vibrations caused by the skates rubbing up against a pad surface from transferring into the frame of the mouse, which reduces the level of audio feedback you'll hear on the Jade Airs, specifically when they're used on hard pads. Now, the non-Air Jade skates were already quite quiet on hard pads, but these Air versions are even quieter because of this added layering. Now, this added SMPF layer is where the Jade Air skates get a little confusing, as adding an SMPF layer to an already quiet skate type seems kinda pointless, and this gets even more questionable considering that 100% PTFE skates like the Jade and Jade Air skates wear extremely quickly on hard pads. So why did X-Raypad even bother making an Air version of the Jade skates in the first place? Well, it turns out that X-Raypad did this not for the reduction in the audio feedback, it's actually to improve the skate's reusability. Now, the previous Jade Dots and Jade Donut skates were great speed skates, but they had one crucial flaw aside from the sizing of the donut versions, and that was their reusability. The 3M adhesive that X-Raypad uses for all of their skates would anchor the Jade skates perfectly to the mouse, but when you go to remove the skate itself would peel away from the adhesive, making it so you couldn't really reuse the skates. In some situations, depending on the mouse's base where the skates would sit, sometimes you could peel the whole skate away intact with the adhesive layer still on the skate, but most of the times the Jades were sadly one and done, as if you needed to adjust their position or move them to another mouse, you couldn't do so most of the time. This was an issue that strangely never happened to the Obsidian skates or the Obsidian Pro skates, but only the Jade skates. But here on the Jade Air skates, since they have this added layer of SMPF that goes between the 3M adhesive and the skate itself, the Jade Airs have massively improved reusability, on par with the usability of the other X-Raypad Air skates. This is, in my opinion, the biggest upgrade to the Jade Air skates that, funny enough, X-Raypad isn't really advertising. I guess you could argue that the increased reusability of the Jade Airs isn't as impactful considering that the lifespan of the Jade Air skates and the non-Air Jade skates is the lowest out of all of X-Raypad's skate offerings, but as someone who moves skates between mice a lot, this is a fantastic and long overdue upgrade to the Jade skates in my opinion. Alright, let's talk performance next. Now, there really isn't too much to talk about here in regards to performance, as both the Jade Airs and the non-Air Jade skates are made of the same 100% PTFE material, so their performance is very similar. Just like the original Jade skates, the Jade Airs are speed optimized skates, the fastest X-Raypad skate you can get, at least for now. From my testing, both the Jade Air Dots and Donuts are 1-for-1 in terms of their performance to their non-Air counterparts. There is technically a slight difference in the control, as the Jade Airs are taller than their non-Air versions, so technically speaking, the Jade Air versions are ever so slightly slower, but from my testing, the Jade Airs are 1-for-1 in terms of their performance to the non-Air Jades, and this supposed slight difference in the control that X-Raypad is advertising between the two isn't noticeable from my testing. Now, the Jade Air Dots are the fastest skate, as they are a smaller surface area compared to the Donuts. The Dots perform very well across the board, but since they're dot skates, they aren't usable on super soft mouse pads like the X-Raypad Cerberus or the Infinity Mice Ruin, as they're too thin to counteract the depth of those pads, which causes the mouse to bottom out, but they're perfectly usable on medium to hard firmness soft pads and all hard pads. The Jade Air Donuts, on the other hand, were my personal favorite. Those of you who watch the channel for a long time know I love the X-Raypad Donut skates. They're definitely slower than the Jade Air Dots as they have a much larger surface area, but this works in the Donut skates' favor as they're usable on all the same pad types as the Jade Air Dots, but they're also usable on super soft pads like the Infinity Mice Ruin and the X-Raypad Cerberus, as their larger surface area prevents them from sinking into the pad and causing your mouse to bottom out. So the Jade Air Donuts are usable on every single pad type, which is great to see. The Dots are also pretty universal in terms of the usage, you just can't use them on very soft pads. So overall, both the Jade Air and Jade Donuts are very good skates and they have decent usability. The Donuts are the more universal version, as we've seen with all the previous X-Raypad Donut skates, and they're usable on every single pad type. The Dot skates are usable on most pad types, you just can't use them on very soft pads. And lastly, I wanted to quickly talk about audio feedback here for the Jade Air skates. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the non-Air Jade skates were already quite quiet on hard pads due to their softer PTFE material, but the added SMPF layering here on the Air versions makes the Jade Airs even quieter than their non-Air counterparts. I'll give you some quick sound comparisons on some hard pads between the Jade Air Dots and Donuts and the non-Air Dots and Donuts, so you can get an idea of the level of audio feedback on these skates. Well, in closing, overall, I'm very impressed with the Jade Air Dots and Donuts. While the Air upgrade doesn't really do a lot in terms of audio feedback on hard pads, it does fix the poor reusability of the original Jade skates, which is in my opinion the biggest improvement here. Now the Jade Air Dots are perfect, I don't really have any complaints about those, but sadly the Jade Air Donuts have the same issues as the past donut skates. They're still my favorite skate type, but as I said earlier, I would love to see X-Raypad make the donut slightly smaller, more around an 8.5mm diameter, so they're more universal in terms of their mouse compatibility. I would also love to see the sharp 90-degree edge of the central dot be rounded so they can be used as micro dots or stabilizers, but I've said this about every single X-Raypad donut skate I reviewed at this point, so I think I've said my piece about this and I kind of feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. But overall, the Jade Air Dots and Donuts are a fantastic upgrade to the old Jade skates with the same speedy performance but with significantly better reusability. If you'd like to learn more about the Jade Air Dots or Donuts or pick some up for yourself, I will have some product links down in the video description. But with that, that's going to be everything for today's episode of the mel0n review. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much again to X-Raypad for sending out the Jade Air Dots and Donuts for review. I greatly appreciate it. As I mentioned earlier, I will have a full review of X-Raypad's new meteorite glass dots coming very soon, so be sure to get subscribed so you don't miss that video. Big thank you to our channel members here, Yukia89, Prince, It Was Luck, and Lunaris. Thank you very much for your support. If you would like to become a channel member here and support what I'm doing here on the channel with the in-depth reviews and the teardown project, you can become a member for only $2 Canadian, and that is one of the best ways to directly support the channel. You can also support the channel by using code mel0n with a 0 over at Lethal Gaming Gear, Met Keys, Potent Gaming, and TJ Exclusives to save yourself a little bit of money on your orders and help directly support the channel. Thank you very much again for watching my review of the X-Raypad Jade Air Dots and Donuts, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of the mel0n review. Peace.